So, okay, where are we?
I think it's my villain.
Yep.
It's from Old Boy.
Old Boy.
What was the name?
The
actually?
original.
The what?
Because you said there was an American remake of it?
Yeah.
Spike Lee, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with
Josh
Josh Brolin in the main role. I haven't seen it, but it's supposed to be really bad.
I've seen it.
Wow.
It's not. It's, I mean, it's.
Why
not,
would you remake Old Boy? Old Boy is such
Yeah.
a good movie.
They show it to the American audience, basically.
But
I think
the
that.
American audience they can read subtitles. It's so good. It's so beautiful. You know.
Yeah, it is, and it was
Lee Woo-jin?
Lee
Yeah,
Woo-jin.
okay,
I was
yeah.
gonna
Go
say
to Bill.
Woo-jin Yu.
Yeah.
So that's my
Oh,
memory.
yeah.
So he's a funny villain in the way that okay, here's the premise. He is having sex with his sister.
Well, he was many years ago.
Yeah, many years ago. Yeah, when he was in high school or something like that.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. Well, why not?
I had sex
mean,
with his sister in high school.
It's like it's youth. It comes with the territory. So and then this guy starts a rumor about it, and the rumor is something like this: that they're having sex and the girl is pregnant.
She's a slut too.
The slut rumor too. Yeah, and then she starts to believe that she actually is pregnant.
Yeah, has a hysterical pregnancy.
And that is what drives her to commit suicide. And this the villain here is of course totally in love with his sister.
But remember, this happens like 30 years before the movie actually takes place. This is the
And only like in the final
Flashbacks.
15
only
minutes
the
of the
final
movie.
15 minutes of the movie.
When it's explained what is
I
actually
mean,
going
what
on.
actually happens in the movie is a
Yeah.
guy is imprisoned for 15
Yeah.
years in a room.
That is really
and-
something. When you see it for the first time, you're like,
And remember, like, why was I in prison? Why was I in prison? And when Lee Woo-jin says, you're asking the wrong question. You know, the question was, why were you let out? Which is great, you know. You're right. Classic villain. Very good villain. Yeah.
and it's sort of, and then he makes up a plan, I guess.
Yeah. Which takes years and money.
Yeah, and he's super rich, so that helps. And I was thinking about the plan. What does it really represent? It's sort of because the plan is that the guy's going to be locked for 15 years. The guy has a daughter, and he's gonna fall in love with his daughter, have sex with her, and then will be confronted with the truth of the situation.
You got to keep him away for 15 years so the
So,
daughter has time to grow up.
Yeah.
So he's basically sort of. I remember the end scene when they are talking about when the I don't remember the names, but the villain and the good guy. Let's say he's not a good guy, the good guy, but still the villain is explaining that can you live with
And he's like,
this
I'll do
situation?
anything. Cutting off his own tongue.
Yeah.
Like, you got to see this movie if you haven't
So
seen
that
it.
and he's cutting out his own tongue so that the girl doesn't find out that she has been having sex with her father, and it's like he's sort of recreating his own situation with another man who ruined his situation completely, and then looking at it, showing it to him, and asking, "Can you live with this?"
But interestingly enough, once this is all played out, what does Lee Woo-jin do? That's because he has nothing left to live for. I mean, there's nothing left in his life.
Yeah.
The only thing he had was first his love, and then his revenge,
Yeah,
or whatever you
yeah,
want to call
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Even though he's incredibly wealthy, ridiculously handsome, really funny. I mean, he's a funny bad guy too, and that way he's always laughing and always one step ahead of the game. I like that kind of bad guy a lot.
Yeah.
But then that's it. That's nothing left for life. You know.
Yeah. There's some interesting things about. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the director, and this is his sort of revenge trilogy. Not trilogy in the sense that they have the same characters, but first one is Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Then there's Old Boy, and then there's Lady Vengeance.
I gotta see these
and
movies.
And any movie you can see by this director is amazing. Agassi, which was The Handmaiden, was one of my top 10 movies of last year.
Okay.
He creates these incredibly interesting and dark worlds in all of his movies. But the thing about it is that they're always very contrived in a way.
Oh yeah,
And in this case, for example, is the revenge justified for making a sort of an off the cuff comment in
Yeah.
high school
Yeah,
about
no,
your.
Of course, it's not justified.
Yeah,
That's
but
why he's a great villain.
Yeah, but there is that. I think that there is also in considering a great villain and his motivations, you have to take that into account.
But he's a villain because the guy who's the good guy, who actually is a shitty guy,
Yeah.
was the villain, or he
Yes.
thinks he
Yeah.
obviously thinks he's the good guy in doing this.
Yeah, and there are hints about him being an asshole throughout the whole film, because while he's imprisoned, one of the things that he eventually starts doing is writing up a list of all the people that he might have offended or had gripes with, and it's a long list.
Yeah.
It's like
And yet Lee
pages and
Woo-jin
pages.
is not on it.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
he doesn't know that he's done this.
Yeah.
He doesn't know why
Yeah.
he's the bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's one of the interesting things about it in terms of
Actually,
about
I-
what we think about how we affect other people. With a simple thing, I mean, I know that probably I'm guessing I've probably said some things in my life that have stayed with those people forever, in good and bad.
Why do you think
I
I'm
mean,
here? I'm here to kill you.
oh
shit, I should
Don't you have a more intricate
be
plan?
a really good villain, man.
Sharks, laser beams, something interesting.
Sharks. I am going to kill you with sharks.
Yeah.
Sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
But in terms of that, it's interesting because a lot of the time it is the stuff that we don't necessarily remember or notice, or just some comment we made at some point which somebody else takes and carries to their grave.
And that's the thing that I wanted to ask, because I don't remember it for some reason. What's the rumor that the good guy started? Was it about her, the girl who killed herself, being a slut or being an incestuous
I don't think
slut?
he told her about the incest thing.
No.
Because he confronted
It's not-
Lee
a
Woo-jin
slut is
about
not
that.
bad, I mean-
No, but it
That
is
was-
bad if you're a very upright, moral citizen and the only person you hang out with is your brother.
Yeah.
But remember, why did Lee Woo-jin kill the good guy's best friend? Because he's like, remember, she was a whore. Yeah, I don't know who she was with, but everybody
yeah,
knew that. She
yeah.
was a, and it was him that started the rumor, you
No.
know. So
Yeah.
that was the thing. That's why that guy got
No,
killed
yeah.
with a broken CD,
And I can,
which is pretty good.
it is really.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand the motivation. I mean, really, if you think about it, if you're a psycho, I mean, and somebody has hurt you that much, and you can perceive a direct connection between this person and the hurt that you're feeling. And he has a very singular mind, the villain. I mean, really, because he kills himself at the end.
What a
So-
good movie that was.
Yeah.
Man, that's a fantastic
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So he's
It-
basically correcting the only thing, the worst thing that has ever happened to him in this world.
Yeah.
That was the only thing. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah, that's the only
You gotta
thing.
be. That's a real single-minded. Well, that's the essence of a good villain. I mean, he was single-minded. I mean, he's handsome, he's charming, he's clever, he's funny, he's fucking psychotic.
No,
Yeah.
no.
There's also an interesting reading about the film, because the main character and the villain are supposed to be roughly the same age.
Yeah,
And
they don't look like
they
it.
don't look like
No.
it. And one of the interesting readings about it is that how the villain sort of represents a godlike, because he controls everything. A sort of godlike element, and the main character represents a sort of because there are obvious parallels to like Greek myths, like Oedipus.
Yeah.
Oedipus
Yeah.
is there, and especially even his name is like dae-su,
Yeah.
which is
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's taken from Oedipus.
Yeah.
Oedipus. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Dae-su,
Yeah. So it's this Greek sort of tragedy where the main character is struggling in a world where an outside godlike presence is sort of controlling it, and eventually there's just one fate that you're going towards, and
Yeah.
in the end
And it's caused by this sort of moment of hubris, basically, that you have done.
yeah.
I did tell. Okay, and I could watch it and go, yeah, that's cool and stuff. But there's a big part of me that's saying, okay, when he's like, 15 years of training by myself. Do you think that prepares me for a fight? And it does. And you know what? No. If I was stuck in a room with a TV for 15 years and I was trying to teach myself kung fu or something, I wouldn't be able to kick so much ass when I got. I'm totally cool with him doing it though, because it's done well.
But
know?
I have to argue that 15 years in one room would probably, if you have this sort of a mindset that is capable of becoming stronger from this experience,
Sure.
I think you would re-emerge as a pretty strong-willed individual, and that helps a
And
lot.
the
Oh
thing
yeah,
is-
because I mean, you know, his
The
character at
corridor
the
scene is
beginning,
like, oh
when
my
he's,
God.
you know, with the drunk in the drunk
Yeah.
tank and stuff at the beginning. There's nothing good about this
No.
character.
Yeah, but we were talking about this, that it's also it's very, very difficult to imagine what it's like being locked in a room for 15 years, especially considering. I mean, even like criminals who get put in solitary for extended periods of time. They at least know that their sentence is, unless they're like life sentence people, but
If
they
have a
know that
time limit.
there's
Yeah.
a time limit. And when you're in a room and you don't know, you've
No.
been there like 10 years,
And,
And
as
you're
far as
gonna-
you know, it's going to be another 50 years, 30
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a very, very difficult psychological thing to sort of
It is.
try
It really
try
is,
to
yeah, yeah.
portray or even understand at any level.
Yeah.
Because there aren't really people that you can go and ask about how you
So
felt.
when did you get out?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a genuine masterpiece of a film. Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only in terms of plotting and not only in terms of the characters and so on, but just, for example, the scene where he's in the corridor and beats up like 15 people.
Oh, yeah.
It took 17 days to film that sequence,
Yeah.
and it's basically in one shot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like Matrix style fighting where
No.
you can see that this is obviously choreographed and
Yeah,
stuff like
no.
that. It feels like you hear the hammer crunches and you hear the knife going into his back, and you can sort of imagine the bone crunching and the fists hitting the fat guy's stomach and stuff like that. It
They should have
feels so.
slapped the fat guy.
Yeah.
Rub the tummy.
No offense to any of you young Buddhas out there.
Yeah. But it's a very, very interesting film
And
in
I
so
think,
many levels.
and the weird thing about it is, when you think about it, the guy has to go through this gauntlet. And what if he had failed at, let's say, the first fight? He would have lost the first fight.
Well, that
The
would've been it for
gauntlet
the
doesn't.
movie.
Yeah, the gauntlet doesn't exist. So, and if you think about the villain probably wants him to succeed
Yeah.
because he wants to see the
obviously.
completion.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, so you can explain
interesting
all the great
dilemma.
stuff to
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
And this is the problem with a lot of contrived stuff that then, of course, obviously, especially in this movie, and I'm going to talk about this in terms of another movie as well, but that construct of a film always has that problem of am I willing to am I willing to go along with this ride? Is this am I going to start questioning all the things that could have or should have or maybe would have happened if this was actually happening?
But I think there's actually, really, when you think about it, is there a problem there? I mean, if you're the villain and I imagine he would have made a psychological profile of the guy, and he's gonna put him in a place for 15 years, and he probably has some sort of an
Makes
idea
him
what
a better
that
person.
yeah what that's gonna do to him, and then he's just gonna do the domino thing,
Yeah.
and just see how far it goes. He has an idea where
Because
it
it
will
could
go.
have failed in a lot of places, you
And
know.
I think that's the intrigue for the villain also.
And-
Will
and
it
in a
actually
way-
succeed?
And in a way, it does fail in the end. In a way, because Lee Woo-jin wants dae-su to live with the fact that, and he in the end he hypnotizes himself to
기억을
forget
잘못해서 막 엉클어지지도
that
않거든요.
he's.
I need the number
it's
of
his
that
daughter.
hypnotist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah.
She was good. She hypnotized
Above
about.
average.
Yeah. But it is a in that way perhaps the vengeance or the revenge is complete because he cannot live with the fact that
Right,
he's in love
that's
with
true.
this again.
That's
No,
true.
no.
Now, that guy, the actor that played Lee Woo-jin, that guy would be a good Bond villain.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a great
Yeah.
criminal mastermind. He was a criminal mastermind in this, but he should be in a Bond because he's so handsome. I mean, even what was that made 15 years ago? He's probably still really good.
Yeah,
looking,
yeah.
right? Then again, we talked about Brando, and you saw him change over 15 years. So what do I know?
Yeah. And they tried to make that kind of villain in that awful Die Another Day movie. that has a South Korean villain, and
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is different.
it's the
Yeah, but that is
shittiest,
different.
shittiest, one of the shittiest
the ones I saw.
shittiest
The
Bond
ones.
movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Is it the one with the invisible car?
Yes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the
fucking-
surfing in the Arctic and
Come
stuff
on, that
like
shit happens.
Fuck you.
Hey, did you ever
Fuck.
see the Flint? Did you ever see the Flint movies, which were James Coburn? Sort of it was a like
Our
this
Man
and-
Flint,
and
yeah,
In Life
yeah,
Flint, and the
yeah.
President's Analyst, which is not a Flint movie, but which is I think is the ultimate '60s spy movie. James Coburn he's a psychiatrist, and that's it. The movie's called The President's Analyst because the president needs to shrink, and then he becomes the president's analyst. And so, but then the FBI and CIA and everybody think he's learning government secrets, so they want him out of the way. KGB wants him because they think he's got government secrets.
That's
and stuff.
a really cool
And
idea.
and he goes undercover as the gong player in a hippie band.
So this is a comedy,
No,
or
no,
this?
there are bits that are funny, but it's a very much a 1969 product
No.
of its time. I'm not going to spoil the ending when you find out who the real bad guy is, because you're like, yeah, I did not see that coming. So, but it's good. The President's Analyst is very good. It's because James Coburn, when he was young like that, he's handsome and stuff, but he's like kind of rough, and he's so stylized in that. Like at one point, somebody says something, and it's the best scene in the movie. He turns and he just smiles, and goes, "Yes," and it's that James Coburn, full teeth, and you're like, there's no way this guy's a psychiatrist, But I warmly recommend The President's Analyst if you want to see a great but kooky '60s spy film made in real '60s spy time, not like throwbacks, like a serious Austin Powers or something.
That's good.
Yeah, that's so good.